The stars are right, and that means it's time for another episode of The Whisper in Darkness. I'm your host, the Manfromleng. Thank you very much for joining me today. On this episode, we are continuing with our reviews of the player cards in the Path to Carcosa Investigator Expansion. This is part 3 of our look at the rogue cards in the box. On this episode, we are going to discuss Sharons Obel, Lockpicks level 1, Moxie level 1, the 41 Derringer level 2, and Pickpocketing level 2. There are spoilers throughout if you care about that sort of thing. If you enjoy what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Before we get started, a quick reminder of how we rate cards here on The Whisper in Darkness. The best of the best get an Elder Sign, while the worst of the worst get an Auto Fail, and the cards in between get a +1, 0, or Elder Thing respectively. Cards that you build around or cards that are good in one particular deck get a Bless token, while cards that we believe are destined to end up on the list of taboos or are simply bad for the big game get a Curse token. Before we get started, I'd like to thank the patrons of this channel for their tremendous support. You all rock. If you'd like to be amazing like these people and support the channel's goals and see your name on this list, head over to patreon.com, sign up for a tier of your choice, and claim your rewards. That would be awesome. Special thanks to Cole Monroe Chitty, Nicole Fiscus, and Nate Lost in Time and Space for their contributions to the channel. I couldn't do it without you. Without further ado, let's get started. Welcome back, everyone, to our reviews of the player cards in the Path to Carcosa Investigator Expansion. We have been taking a look at the rogue cards in the box, and there have been some very good ones so far. Let's see if that continues. The first card we're going to take a look at is Sharons Obel. It is an asset, has no cost. It costs you 1 XP. It has the item and relic trait. It is permanent and exceptional, so it will actually cost you 2 XP. When earning experience during the resolution of a scenario, if you were not defeated during that scenario, you earn 2 additional experience points. If you were defeated during that scenario, you are killed. Talk about a unique effect. Is this the only card in the game that will outright kill you?
Well, there's... Oh, outright kill. Right.
Yes, I believe it is. Other than there's a batch of a couple weaknesses that will eventually get there.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah,
Nothing
there's some
you like
stipulations.
to take.
I love this card. It's so cool. My opinion on it has swayed over the years. I think initially I was like, why would I never not take this card? This card seems really broken.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to some extent that still holds true. Simply because if you can snowball your campaign, you generally never get defeated, and then it's just like, oh, I just earned 14 extra experience. Why? I don't know. Or I guess 12, because you pay 2 into this.
I've kind of gone up and down and swayed on this one as well. But one thing to note about this one is that, all right, campaigns are typically 8 scenarios long.
Mm-hmm.
You can't take this before starting unless you want to do the thick of it, but that's broken on itself. So you have to take this after scenario 1.
Yes.
Okay. So you're down 2 XP going into scenario 2. Okay. Scenario 2, it doesn't put you ahead. It makes itself back up. So it's actually like a legitimate cost is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you go into the first time you get XP, even if like you spend it then, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go into scenario 2, and then at the end of that, it doesn't even catches up. And then it's not even till the after scenario 3 where you actually are feeling, getting a benefit. And so you're not even feeling a benefit until scenario 4. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 5 scenarios of benefit, but you got to like pay for it you got to pay for it around scenario 2. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's like, this isn't exactly delve too deep is what I'm getting at.
I definitely agree with you there. Yeah. This is something you invest in.
Yeah.
And there is a real risk to it, because if you do happen to get defeated, whoops.
Yep, then you got to start over at 0 XP. Yeah, mm-hmm. Which is kind of interesting, is that it's a bet that could go very badly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I feel like of the extra XP effects, I feel like this was like one of the least.
This one to me feels the most appropriately balanced amongst them. Yeah, it was like Delta Deep was too little of a cost. Mm-hmm. I think there's a rogue card that gets released later on that has a ton of stipulations and only gives you 1 it's sort of on the opposite spectrum, is my point. And then I think Charon's Obel kind of sits right in the middle there, where it's like you take on this stipulation of if I happen to get defeated, I'm screwed. But you're spending 2 experience, and then you like you said, Matt, you have to wait basically two scenarios in before you start to see any return on your investment.
Yep. And the whole way, you're worried about dying.
And Arkham is very much a game. I think we've said this plenty of times at this point. Is that you want to start, from the ground running. You can't really afford to take on stuff like this a lot of the time, and when you do, it pays off well. But there is a lot of risk involved, which is very fitting for Rogue. So I like it.
Yep.
I think over the years I've grown to like it.
Yeah, this is why what you were saying about you got to hit the ground running and get the snowball going like as fast as possible. This is why I think In the Thick of It is kind of overpowered, because you immediately get that snowball going by getting 3 XP, and then XP begets more XP. Where like this one, you have to make your snowball smaller. Before you know what I mean. You have to make it smaller in order to make it bigger eventually.
Yes.
Yeah. So I feel like this is appropriate.
I believe I have only played this card in one deck, and it was like the what's her name, Ursula. I played this in an Ursula deck, and when I was playing through Forgotten Age the first time, my blind playthrough of Forgotten Age, and I think I did make it to the very end. So I wasn't defeated. I don't think I won the final scenario.
Okay.
But
that's impressive.
Yeah, I sort of have a love-hate relationship with this card, simply because as a solo player, I could certainly use the additional experience points. Because, I mean, as a solo player, you often don't have the time to do all the extra bonus XP that you can do as in multiplayer, like either kill all the elite enemies or visit all the locations. And so you tend to run a little tighter on XP, and this sort of helps you. I think the problem with this in solo is that the way that the scenarios are designed, they sort of want to test different parts of the game, and your solo deck may be good at several of those parts, but it is very difficult to build a solo deck that is good at all of them. And so every campaign seems to have that one scenario that your deck simply cannot deal with. And so the odds of you being defeated are higher. And while that wouldn't necessarily be a problem in multiplayer, in solo it's a huge issue. And so it's like, and I even if you just think about something like the Path to Carcosa campaign, right? Like you go from Unspeakable Oath, which is sort of like evading and stuff like that, and then you've got to go to a Phantom of Truth, which is all about evading, and then they throw the Pallid Mask at you, which forces you to do something different. And it's just like, if your deck can't make that pivot in solo, then you're going to go down to defeat, and then you've lost the game with this card.
But at least the pivot happens after you've netted some XP from this. So you can like take, even though the bonus at that point might be like 2 or 4, that's still enough to like help you pivot.
I like this card quite a lot.
Yeah, it feels appropriate for an XP booster. Assuming that XP boosters are going to be in the game. Yeah, which it's arguable whether they should be. And this feels about right. Yeah. Also, this seems like an interesting ride in solo, I gotta say, because like you don't have anyone to back you up. Yeah, like it's all on you to whether you get killed or not, which is I think kind of fun. The Iron Man,
It's the ultimatum of finality.
Yeah, there you go.
What it's called. Yeah.
How would you guys rate this one?
That's a good question. Flavor-wise, absolute elder sign. I love this card.
Oh gosh, yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's Greek too. Like, and there's not a whole lot of Greek at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, it fits into like the French theme with the
with the background,
Paris, and you get Greek mythology in there, which is very Lovecraftian in a way. Huge flavor win for me. Gameplay-wise, I think I'm gonna land on a +1 for overallness, because there is that risk. I feel it's appropriately balanced for what it does. I think because it's linear nature, you can you can balance something like that much more appropriately. And you may die from it, which is a real risk, like you were saying, Manfromleng, in lower player counts. So yeah, I think it's a fair and good card, worth considering.
Yeah, I'm also gonna say +1. I think one stipulation I would want to add to it is it's nice to have a plan of what you're going to use that extra XP on, because not all decks require lots of XP. Even rogue decks, especially with like a larger card pool, you can get away with some rogue decks that don't require a ton of XP. But if you're gonna do like a black fan, like high resource combo, and you need like more XP than all the other investigators at the table, then this is pretty good. If you're playing a deck that doesn't need a lot of XP to get going, then you could probably skip this, because why take the risk if your deck's gonna like, hit its plateau. Like earlier on. So yeah, and then on the like I said, flip side, some decks you just need more XP than all your friends in order to like get going. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go with +1. It's not for everybody, but it's an interesting ride. And then, of course, it reminds me of the times when I got that weakness that gave me 2 XP, and then I immediately spent it on this. And it was for a blind run too. I was like, all in, boys. Fun times.
I think I'm going to settle on 0 for this one. It's definitely an option. It's not an option I have reached for all that often, simply because getting yourself killed in solo is much easier than it is in multiplayer. I feel like this could be prone to snowballing in multiplayer, simply because the odds of you getting actually killed are less. But
yeah, that's true.
I don't know. The additional XP does certainly help you in solo, but the risk is definitely real compared to cards like Delve Too Deep, where there's the way you play it, usually on your last turn of the game, and you're never really under any threat. It's definitely an option if you want to risk it all. You can pick up Sharons Obel, but like we've said, it doesn't pay off immediately, and you are sort of delaying your deck's development for a couple of scenarios before this one starts to pay off. So keep that in mind. The next card really needs no introduction. This is Lockpicks, level 1. 3-cost asset with an intellect skill icon. Item tool, illicit trait, uses 3 supplies. If Lockpicks has no supplies, discard it. As an action, exhaust Lockpicks, investigate, add your agility value to your skill value for this investigation. If you do not succeed by at least 2, remove 1 supply from Lockpicks and it takes up a hand slot. I don't think any other card has revolutionized Rogue as much as this one did. It was reprinted in the revised core for a very good reason, and until this was released, Rogues didn't have a lot of great options to get clues. I mean, they had Flashlight, and later they had Streetwise. This one comes along and basically all but guarantees that you get 1 clue a turn. Probably the easiest Elder Sign in the game.
Easiest Elder Sign in the game? That's debatable.
I mean, it's definitely the best, I would argue, the best rogue card in the game. I think, generally speaking.
I think you're probably right.
Just because of what it does for the faction,
or the class as a whole. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I'm even thinking like Safina here, like who's like one of the least roguey rogues, right? Still, she loves this because it doesn't take up a spell slot, and she's at an 8, on this. So yeah, the fact that it's like almost guarantees the clue is pretty sweet, and you get 3, and also like you can tactically break a pick on like a high shroud location. Like you don't necessarily have to succeed by 2 on every single test you make with Lockpicks. Yeah, you get 3 of them. Yeah, this is really good. And also, like, the only downside of this one is that it costs money to put down, right? So it's a little slow, and it has to exhaust. So it's only going to get you 1 clue a turn. That all being said, like, you're a rogue, you don't have access to Pathfinder, right? So you have to spend So on a given turn, you're going to have to move. All right. And then you're going to get one investigate test.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to do another thing, often enough. Yeah. It's not like it's not like the fact that you can't use this 3 times is like that big of a deal, is what I'm saying. Because you have to move around. You have to spend actions doing other things as a rogue. Yeah.
If you're playing Jenny, you can play deduction.
Yeah. And that really helps. It does really help. You get 2. Yeah. So I guess I'm saying the only limitation it has to it, like, it's not the worst in the world because you have to spend actions moving as a rogue. Also, I love lockpicks for triggering quick thinking.
Yes.
Because it's like such an easy quick thinking trigger.
Well, your lucky cigarette case, though, once that comes out. I mean, this is basically...
Then this is how you do it.
This is guaranteeing you get a clue and a card.
Yeah.
Every turn.
That's kind of how the rogue
that's what
works.
I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how the rogue starts to work, like in these early sets. So yeah, it's super good. Like, you got to really ask yourself why you're not playing it. As a rogue.
Yeah.
I got to be honest.
Yeah, that's really the question is, what am I doing instead of this?
Yeah.
I think even Safina has to ask herself that question because.
Oh yeah, Safina loves this card because it takes up a hand slot, not a spell slot. I think like the reason why you wouldn't play this is if you're playing 2-handed weapons. Yeah, that would be why. If you're playing like 45 Thompsons later on in the game, or if you're playing Chicago Typewriter, that would be why. But other than that, you're probably playing Lockpicks.
It is worth noting that there is a level 0 version of Lockpicks that was released, I believe, in the Winifred Havemock starter deck.
Yeah.
Which is a pale comparison to the level 1 version, because basically any test has a potential to break your picks, and
and then it's gone
it's
forever.
Just not worth the risk. But this one, you've got 3. I don't know. I think I can count on one hand how many times I've broken a pick in all the games I've played with this.
It's basically never, because
I break picks
you end
all
up
the
with
time.
like a 7, 8.
Yeah,
like if you're investigating 5, 6 shroud locations with it,
exactly,
you will probably break a pick in those situations. But
yeah,
in lower player counts, you're investigating 2, 3, 4 shroud locations, and you blow those tests out of the water.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. But also, what's nice about Lockpicks is because you have those 3 shots, you can investigate 4 shroud locations without having to throw icons into it. Like if you're 6 or 8 as Safina, you can draw -4, still get the clue, but you have those 3 picks to to fall back on, which is really nice. I gotta admit, it's not like even Seekers, like even if a Seeker runs into a 4 shroud location, they have to have some sort of boost, like to reliably get it. So at least with Rogues, once a turn you can get it. You might break a pick, but you have 3 of them, so you're fine. And this is why I really don't like the Lockpicks level 0, because you can just, like, one bad token, you've lost your whole picks, and you don't even get any clues for it. Can often happen. So, kind of awful. Yeah, so this card's super good.
Ratings?
Elder Sign?
Elder Sign. Yeah, you got to ask yourself, if you're a rogue, you got to ask yourself why you're not playing this card.
Yeah, super good. Was reprinted in revised core, so you've likely got a couple copies of this already, and if you enjoy building decks, having a couple extra copies for your other rogue deck is nice. So it's nice when the very good cards have been are reprinted. So yeah, tough to turn your nose up at this one in pretty much any deck that can take it. The next card is Moxie. It is a 1-cost asset with a that costs 1 XP, willpower, and agility skill icons, talent, composure, fast, limit 1 composure in play. Non-direct horror must be assigned to Moxie before it can be assigned to your investigator card. As a free triggered ability, you can spend a resource to either get +1 willpower or +1 agility for this skill test, and this one has 1 sanity. Now the composures that were released in Echoes of the Past sort of got a bad rap compared to, especially when you compare them to the Dunwich Legacy permanent talents. This one I have actually used because rogues have terrible willpower. This is one of the few ways, especially at this stage of the game, where you can basically churn your resources into willpower skill boosts. It's a little tricky to use because you need to sort of play it at the right time and then try to kind of protect it. But even if this gets you through a Frozen in Fear, it can be a lifesaver. What do you guys think about this one?
This card is low-key slept on in a lot of rogue decks. It's
I agree.
Good. Like you said, it's one of the only ways you have to deal with willpower treacheries, and it's a pretty good way of dealing with it.
Yeah, that's what convinced me when I first tried it. Was once I realized it protects itself by letting you boost willpower tests, the same willpower test like that would make it fall off the table. I realized this is actually like really good. Because it gives you like an outlet for all your resources that actually like covers one of your key weaknesses. Yeah, and even like Jenny, like even Jenny has trouble with Rotting Remains because she's a 3 willpower and it's a difficulty 3, right? Or trouble with Frozen in Fear. So this kind of solves it all. Yeah, this is like, like you say, it's low key, like it's really good.
it's pretty solid.
Yeah, that
and it plays nicely with Watch This too.
Oh yeah, that.
So you could you could chuck some resources in the Watch This, chuck some resources into your Moxie. You succeed the test, you get a bunch of resources back, and
you get 3 back.
There you go.
Good. Feels good. Yeah. I like Moxie. I think it's actually my favorite of the composures, and I think although I think Plucky's pretty good, but this one I think it's really useful because rogues need it, and it is pricey in that it costs a lot of resources to really push through a Frozen in Fear test, but it's one of the few ways you have. So it feels like appropriately costed.
Yeah, I was convinced of this card's power when I played through the Secret Name with Winifred. And if you have played the Secret Name, you know how many willpower skill tests are in that particular scenario. Right. And I actually beat it with Winifred, and this card was key to doing so because she could just basically convert all of her resources into passing the willpower skill tests that she needed. And this is fast, so you can drop it on the table. And even if you lose it, but it's helped you on a couple tests, it doesn't feel so bad. So especially at this stage of the game. I mean, recently rogues have received a lot of tools to deal with willpower tests, either in event form or skill form, where you can just toss a ton of icons at it and hope for the best. But at this stage of the game, it's a little bit tougher, and this is definitely one of the better tools in the box. How would you rate this one?
I'm gonna give this, I think, a +1. It's really solid. I think the only thing that really holds it back is just how much resource generation your deck has. If you're someone like Safina, you might not have the resources really to do stuff like this, depending on how your deck is built. But I could also see a Safina deck where you like play Hot Streak.
Oh, you play Hot Streak a few times,
and you copy Hot Streak with Painted World, and now you're boosting your best 2 stats.
Yeah, that's true. Although Safina, like, she has access to Holy Rosary, so she doesn't necessarily need this. But I get your point. Yeah,
well, she could use Holy Rosary to protect this.
There you go. Yeah, just play both. No problem. Yeah, the fact that this is fast is like pretty good. Yeah, I'm gonna go +1 as well. Like, yeah, if you're playing a rogue and you're already playing roguey stuff that gets you resources, like you could do a lot worse than this. Yeah, I like this card. I also love how he, like, the guy, he's not just escaping for his life, but look, he's got his little dog. There's a little puppy in his arm. It's like, that's so cute. It makes you wonder about this fella's story. Not only is he, I'm guessing he like snuck onto the train and like doesn't have a ticket, and then like the conductor's coming by and he's like, oh, gotta go. And
what if he stole the puppy?
Well, then he can burn in hell, and that's terrible. But assuming that's his puppy, right? Him and his puppy, he's just like, he decided to sneak on a train because he's kind of poor and he needs to get to the next city. But then the conductor's coming by, he doesn't have a ticket, so he's got to like jump off the train. Yeah, it's what a great story.
I kind of wish the character in this art was the same one from Watch This, because then it would give you a very sort of a nice little story running through the cards of this guy who's like, on one hand he's like jumping out of a window firing his guns, and then he's jumping off the train with his, like, if they'd put the dog in his pocket and Watch This, that would have been awesome.
Just provide that link. But then again, if the guy would watch this was this guy, the train would have to be on fire, and there'd have to be like tentacles coming out of it and like gunfire everywhere, and it would be a very complicated. It would be a very busy piece, if it was to Watch This Man. Because I have a feeling that Watch This Man, like every day of his life involves gunshots.
It is worth noting that there is an upgrade, a level 3 upgrade for Moxie, and I believe it's the Edge of the Earth expansion, which is arguably even better than this one because it does protect itself a little bit compared to this one. Costs more XP, but yeah, I really like this card. I can't give it an Elder Sign. It's definitely +1 territory, though. I think this is one of those cards that people have really slept on because when I've looked at rogue decks, especially when I'm looking for rogue decks to play solo, and a lot of the complaints you see on rogue decks is just like people just sort of throw up their hands and say, "Well, there's no way you're going to ever pass a willpower skill test," and they're like, we can't do it. And I'm just like, yeah, but Moxie exists.
Just play Moxie. Yeah,
just play Moxie. Moxie can do it.
Yeah.
But people seem to forget about it. Maybe because they've just wrote off all the composures as pointless. But yeah, I often look at this one and I'm just like, yeah, it's only 1 XP and it can save your ass especially against Frozen in Fear. And that's what you need. So definitely worth the 1 XP if you are concerned about covering willpower skill tests. And take it from me, if you are playing something like The Secret Name, which is basically all willpower skill tests, and this card can get you through that scenario, then it will work in other scenarios as well. The next card is also reprinted in the revised core set. This is the 41 Derringer level 2, 3-cost asset, combat and agility skill icons, item, weapon, firearm, and illicit trait. Uses 3 ammo. As an action, spend 1 ammo, fight. You get +2 combat for this attack. If you succeed by 1 or more, this attack deals +1 damage. Once per turn, if you succeed by 3 or more, you may take an additional action this turn. Takes up a hand slot. Thoughts on the 41 Derringer?
I think this is one of Matt's favorite cards of all time.
It kind of is. Yeah, because I think a lot of members of the community they kind of lean on Switchblade level 2 to do what this does. And I can't remember which set Switchblade level 2 was in, but Switchblade level 2 on its face is probably a bit more reliable. Costs less, doesn't have ammo, deals 2 damage per attack. But I've just played with Derringer a lot, and what I've come around to with it is that it is a weapon, but what it actually does is give you 3 extra actions, because it lets you action compress a combat turn even farther by giving you that extra action. So, but the thing is, you got to succeed by 3, which is kind of hard to do. But you don't necessarily have to succeed by 3 on every shot with it. Let's say it's go time. You got to start shoot. You got to start dealing damage. You take a shot. Okay, you succeed by 1, you get 2. You take the second shot, then you go all in. You succeed by 3, and then you get the action back. And then you're feeling pretty good because now you're on track to do 6 or 8 damage to the baddie and really get things done. That was really well with sleight of hand. Because if you take 3 shots off of a sleight of hand, if you're a rogue and you're trying to succeed at these tests, you're gonna draw -1 on one of them, and then you're gonna end up and if this is the turn where you really got to get things done, you're gonna be boosting, you're gonna be pushing to 4 over or 5 over even on those tests because you got it. That's this is the compressed term, you got to get it all done, and on those turns especially you're gonna get an extra action. Just by odds are. And that's what I really like about this card. It's not just about the damage, it's about the extra action that comes into play on the big fight turns when you need an extra action the most. So
yeah, I love this card. Yeah. I like this card in tandem with evasion too. Because of the action generation, you can evade something, then shoot. Then you basically get your evade action back, which can be really handy too.
True. Yeah, so I've had many good times with this card.
I have nothing to add. It's extra actions. What can you say? It was reprinted for a reason. Gives if you have the revised core, you have somewhere to go with your XP. That's going to be very, very useful. it does the +1 damage, has +2 combat, which is pretty good in its own right for sort of rogues, until you get Tony Morgan, sort of 3 2s and 3s in combat. So that just makes the succeeding harder. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to need to commit or spend resources on talents to really boost this. But if you built your deck with this card in mind, then, like you said, you're probably not going to get the extra action every shot. But if you can get it a couple times out of 3 shots, or sleight of hand it out and then get an extra action out of it, the card is going to do some serious work for you. So how would we rate this one?
I'm going to give this definitely a solid +1. I think as time progresses, you might want to look into different options, but it's really solid.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll go with +1. It's not going to like do everything, everything for you, especially if you're a focused combat rogue. This is kind of like a sidearm at best. But if you play the generalist rogue, where you have like Lockpicks in one hand and Derringer in the other, like this is kind of like perfect weapon for you. I'm thinking like Jenny Barnes, which is kind of like my favorite style of rogue, which is why I've had a lot of experience playing with the 41 Derringer. Yeah, I'm gonna give this one a +1 because it's not gonna do everything all by itself. But what it is gonna do is it's gonna bail you out on the turn where you need to do like a bunch of damage, and it kind of lines right up with there. Even if it's your sidearm, it can still give you that extra action, which is gonna be totally worth it. So I'm gonna go with +1.
I will also give it a +1. Very solid, especially if you are playing sort of you're expected to do a little bit of investigating and a little bit of fighting. This is good for the little bit of fighting part. The lockpicks are good for the little bit of investigating part. And because, between lockpicks and this, you've, for, 4, 5, 6 experience points, you've sort of covered combat and investigation. Then you can spend your other experience points on some of the other rogue stuff. And rogues can... a lot of their cards are exceptional, so you can spend an awful lot of experience points, and it's nice that, for a little bit, 6, you can almost, in later scenario, like it's hard in Dunwich, kind of hard in Path to Carcosa to sort of get 6 right off the bat, but I think in later scenarios you can generate 6, so your deck is basically set up very, very quickly, and then you can start to explore other ideas. The final card we're going to look at in this batch is Pickpocketing Level 2, 2-cost asset with 2 agility skill icons, talent, and illicit traits. It is fast. As a response, after you evade an enemy, exhaust pickpocketing, draw 1 card, or gain 1 resource. If you succeed by 2 or more, do both instead. Love this card.
Card's an engine all on its own. It's really good. Drawing multiples is amazing.
Yeah, and well, and also the first engine helps draw cards to get to the second copy. Yeah, which is really nice. I think honestly the key thing that makes this card really stand out, and actually might be a little overpowered about it, is the fact that it's fast. Because you don't have to play it until it's evade time, and it doesn't provoke on the turn you put it down. Yeah, so this card's amazing because it pays for itself in 1 test. And you don't. And you don't even have to spend an action to put it down. Like you just drop it out there, start evading, get your money back. Yeah, and keep drawing. And rogues need draw engines, so this is super good. Yeah, this is like I swear I see a lot of. This is very popular locally, and so I see lots of. I see it all the time. I have all these memories of of like other players being just playing Finn. Finn is a popular one for this, being like, okay. Nice, got an enemy. I pick his pocket. All right, here we go. And then just like every turn, they're like, I pick his pocket, and it charges up the rest of their turn. Yeah, this card's so good. Yeah, because it's fast. That's what makes it so good.
Yep. This is a card that I often will purchase for my rogue decks. The fact that you're getting a card, you're usually getting a card and a resource, is awesome. It's also worth noting that, rogues don't have Lucky Cigarette Case yet at this stage of the game, and this is one of the few ways that rogues can draw cards, which is important because they have so many exceptional cards, and if you want to see those cards that you've plowed a ton of your experience points into, pickpocketing will get you to them that much quicker. So yeah, I've played this in Rogues. I've played this in Wendy. It's very, very nice. And if you can, it's slotless. So if you can get 2 copies down, holy, you're in heaven. Ratings?
Easy Elder Sign. This card is amazing.
Yeah, I'd agree. If it didn't have the fast, it would be I think it'd be a +1, because then you got to like spend your resources. You got to spend an action to put it down, and then you got to wait for the enemy to show up. But the fact that you can wait, oh my gosh. Like, yeah, Elder Sign.
Yeah, Elder Sign for this one. Again, another nice card for solo, because you can wait until the last minute to put it down. It's not like a lot of those assets where you've got to slow your momentum down. It's like, okay, when am I going to play the pickpocketing? Okay, I'm going to take a hit to my momentum to play it. This one, you just wait, and then when the enemy shows up, not only do you get the free action out of it, but then you're going to start paying for it and getting extra cards and resources right away. So very, very good card, and a pretty good batch of rogue cards overall. That's going to do it for our look at this batch. Let us know in the comments down below what you think. Any final thoughts? Solid. Very, very solid. I mean, Lockpicks, 41 Derringer 2, and Pickpocketing 2. It's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, like and these Moxie 4 cards. Too. Yeah, no, these 4 cards, you just drop them in a rogue deck, and it's like, you're good to go. Like, this is it. Like, this is the rogue identity, like, right here, to be honest. Because, you got a little bit of fighting, you got a little bit of investigating. Now, you're not the best on the team, for it, but it gives you what you need. You got a little, and you got defense, defensive stuff with Moxie and Pickpocketing as your resource engine. Like, just, if you had a deck that, like, if you had a deck list and you started off with these 4 cards, you'd be in good shape. Yeah.
It's true. Yeah, you'd have a way to draw cards, you'd have a way to pass skill tests. I mean, Moxie feeds into pickpocketing.
Yep. That's true.
Which, I mean, true. What more do you need, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, if you need a little bit of extra experience points to afford some of these goodies, then Sharons Obel can supply that.
True. We didn't even,
assuming that you live long enough to benefit from it. But I mean, if you've got pickpocketing level 2 in your deck, you're going to be doing pretty well. So, or even the Derringer. So, yeah, a very solid batch of cards here. Then you throw in Watch This into the mix from our previous set, and that's a pretty good rogue deck for this box. That's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoyed what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you need to contact me, I can be reached at manfromleng@gmail.com. I'm also on Twitter at manfromleng. Until the stars are right, keep your shotgun close and your elder sign closer. Take care out there, and happy investigating.